While he started the day 2 shots ahead, Anthony Doyle knew staying in front wasn't going to be easy. But the 22-year-old trainee professional from New Zealand managed to stay on top with a round of 73. Denny Vera from Terry Hills is tied for second after another solid day. And while things didn't always go to plan, the 32-year-old produced a par round and is in a good position to challenge for the title. Joint winner of the Trainee of the Year, Nigel Spence, is 1 shot behind Vera and David Williams in third place. He had a birdie on the 6th hole, firing par figures, and is at 2 under. Local favourite Kurt Lind fared better today with an even par 72, and although he's 8 shots behind the lead, he's still in contention for the championship. Mark Gilson from the Charlestown club had a disappointing second round. He just missed this shot on the 5th hole and finished with 76. The leading players will tee off at the Newcastle Golf Club tomorrow at 9:30. Lyndall Derrick, NBN News.
With Newcastle dominating possession, there were several chances for the home side to find the net, but each time the chance went begging. When Greg Owens finally did, he was ruled offside. The Sydney boys took it to Newcastle in the second half, but John Parosh was impenetrable in the net. Zelko Babic fired a missile, but it too was deflected. All in all, there were few moments of excitement for the 3,000-strong crowd.
The first thing we said on the way in here, I said, was just so flat. Like the crowd was flat, everything was flat, and that seemed how the game was. Yeah, you can see the players. It felt like you wanted to go out there and kick them up the arse and say, "Hey guys, come on, we're playing a game here. Let's get into it."
We gained some momentum early on in the season, and we was full of confidence. And a couple of losses has really knocked the boys for six. The best thing for us tonight, coming out of it at the end of it, was that we've maybe made a little step.
Doyle, Vera and Victorian David Williams went shot for shot on the early holes in today's round, but it was Doyle that slowly edged ahead with superior accuracy and touch. Danny Vera was on his game, finding the greens with just the right amount of backspin. David Williams pressed his broomstick putter into service, but fell short. Only 2 shots separate the leaders, guaranteeing a tight battle in tomorrow's final round. The winner earns himself a start in the Australian PGA at Coolum.
It's probably one of the toughest skills to hone, and it seems confidence is the major hurdle keeping Newcastle United from posting a win.
I felt we played really well against Adelaide and should have won the game, but we got beat. And I think our confidence took a bit of a knock from that, and it's been hard to sort of get back from there.
United's healthy home record is in danger, putting pressure on players to perform on Friday when they face Sydney Olympic. And while defence has been impressive in recent weeks, a call has gone out to United strikers to lift their game.
And I think we just need to relax a bit more and not give possession away so easily.
There are a few injury concerns for the side. Ryan Griffiths has a hip flexor strain, while Josh Perosh is recovering from an ankle injury. It's hoped both players will be fit for Friday's match. Colleen West, NBN News. The dust may have settled, but not for long. This is just a taste of what's to come in a little over 2 weeks when 100 riders contest the Newcastle Showground Speedway. While sidecars and quad races will make an appearance, it's the 500cc solo bike division that's expected to get the adrenaline pumping. The world number 2 Speedway rider Jason Crump will make an appearance.
The state of Speedway bike racing in Australia is not what it was, and if I can help a few guys out and come down and maybe get a few extra people through the gate, well, it's it's good for the sport.
And it could be one of the final races for Cessnock man Chris Watson, who is considering retiring at the end of the season.
To make the final and be on the podium is a good result. To beat Jason is will be a bit of a buzz.
Racing will be held on December 6, starting at 7 o'clock. Colleen West, NBN News.
Hunter Health sold the now-named Calvary Centre in January. Local federal MP Joel Fitzgibbon angrily fought the move then. Now he's furious.
No justification could be made out for selling it, a community asset, for only $1.
Hunter Health says there can, insisting it brokered the best possible deal for a centre which was costing it millions.
Allendale was losing between $4 to $6 million a year, and that just wasn't sustainable for Hunter Health.
As part of the deal, Hunter Health will also foot the bill for future operating deficits, expected to cost more than $3 million. New owner, the little company of Mary Healthcare, says the sale price was fair, given the big loss the centre was making and its investment plans for $8 million worth of new facilities. But Joel Fitzgibbon is sceptical, claiming a rival local company was offering to pay more.
Why didn't that local organisation get an opportunity, given that they bid, I understand, far more than the $1?
Hunter Health maintains the figures stack up, overseen by a probity auditor, and will ultimately benefit the service's bottom line.
The savings that Hunter Health eventually make will be redirected into hospitals and community health services.
Natasha Bayersdorf, NBN News.
In the blink of an eye, these tiny racing cars can cover the 20-metre track in less than a second. School students from across Newcastle, Lake Macquarie and the Central Coast have been busy building the cars for this year's CO2 Challenge. Today, the vehicles, mostly made from timber, were judged and scrutinised before they were lined up on the track and set free.
You put a CO2-powered rocket in the back of it, and then there's a mechanism that comes down, hits the back and sort of pops it, and then that's how it shoots off.
The so-called jet engine is a sparklet bulb, normally used for aerating drinks. The CO2 Challenge is part of the students' school science studies, with about 40 cars built for this year's event.
The controversial issue over public transport is finally coming to a head. Today, the Lower Hunter Transport Working Group released its second report.
The government's not in the business of just ripping up rail lines and infrastructure. It's got to be done on a basis of sensible analysis that has clear benefits to the community.
The report outlines 5 options, which include retaining the existing rail line, upgrading Civic Station, building a new station at Woodville Junction, and there's 2 options for upgrading Broadmeadow Station. The options differ greatly in cost over the next 20 years. Woodville Junction is the most expensive at $273 million. Broadmeadow is the cheapest of all the options, but the Transport Minister insists this will not be the only factor to influence the government's decision. Mr Costa also maintains no rail jobs will be lost. One more report will be released next month. The government will then make its decision shortly after.
It's not all good news, but what is good news is that something is going to happen. We're making some progress.
And improving the system can't come soon enough.
I mean, we've seen this morning the traffic jams because one road is closed on Workshop Way, and that's because people aren't thinking about using public transport.
Lyndall Derrick, NBN News.
For 27-year-old Jackie Smallcombe, boxing is one of her many loves, but in this state, it's a forbidden one at that.
Women are training and boxing over in the Middle East, but you can't do it in New South Wales. It's pretty ridiculous. So I think it's pretty behind the times, and I mean, we're allowed to vote, so we might as well be able to box, I suppose.
Hand in hand, both in the ring and out, Jackie and her boyfriend Brad Ryan are also training partners. Conceding just 5 fights from 18 meetings, 23-year-old Brad will be chasing his first national amateur title after 5 successful state campaigns. For Jackie, her rise to the top was somewhat rushed. After 2 modified martial arts fights, this will be her first real title shot in the ring for 3 2-minute bouts in qualifying rounds starting this Wednesday in Coolangatta.
Basically, you don't have much time to sort of get in there and prove that you've won the fight, so you've got to get in there and be quick.
And you'd be forgiven for thinking a lover's tiff could turn into much more at their house, but if there's any fighting to be done, it's at the gym.
Everything's pretty much low-key at home. Everything gets sorted out at the gym, I think, so...
Adam McIlrick, NBN News. Newcastle United coach Ian Crook was in good spirits this morning, but it's taken a rugby team to do it.
Certainly had a semblance of a smile on my face anyway come what was it, about 1 o'clock in the morning on Saturday by the time the game finished. So.
Back to soccer, and United will have to do without captain Robbie Middleby this week after that sending off against Sydney Olympic last Friday. Now 6 weeks without a win, Newcastle has slumped to its lowest rank on the ladder this season. The latest loss sees them fall to 8th place.
Robbie's dismissal certainly didn't help. Whether we'd have got beaten or not, I don't know, but that certainly didn't help. But yeah, no, it was just disappointing because we're better than that.
And they'll have to be if they're going to break the stalemate against a highly rated Perth Glory outfit in Newcastle this Friday.
From being a Perth player myself, this is a game that we didn't look forward to coming to Newcastle. So it's always a tough game, and I think we can make it a tough game for them on Friday.
Adam McIlrick, NBN News.
Lake Macquarie Police have already shown this year they want a safe environment for trail bike riders to enjoy the pursuit of their pastime. This mid-year operation in the Wattagans targeted unlicensed riders on unregistered bikes. Today's handover of new bikes, sponsored by state forests and national parks, will allow traffic police to spend more time in the bush.
You will see patrols on these trail bikes by trained police in the state forests and national parks as a regular occurrence, plus on areas like the Fernley Track.
Several other areas of bush activity will receive attention from the Lake Macquarie officers. Security of logging equipment in state forests and the public amenity of national parks will be under scrutiny. Recovery of stolen vehicles found in the bush will also be addressed. Police say legal off-road riders have nothing to fear from their stepped-up presence.
We do have an issue with those that are riding unregistered, uninsured and unlicensed, and I can tell you the fines are steep. They range for between $1,300 and $1,900 for those offences.
Gary Blair, NBN News. The setting is picturesque, however the secluded location of Caves Beach Surf Life Saving Club has unfortunately made it a magnet for heartless thieves and senseless vandals. Club officials this morning again receiving the sunrise phone call that they dread.
Well, as usual, Gary, complete disappointment. This isn't the first time that this has happened. We're all volunteers down here providing a service to the local community and tourist trade, and we're faced to contempt with this on several occasions.
Broken glass was a calling card of the latest intruders. A hole punched in a pane of glass to gain entry to the clubhouse area of the pavilion. Bottles were also smashed in the bar. Fire extinguishers were used to inflict more damage and to dust the inside of the building. Damage is estimated at $5,000. The surf club attack was one of numerous overnight calls for police to Caves Beach following complaints about an end-of-year party by school students. Phil Rose says the club needs community support to stop further costly vandalism.
Well, that's very true. I mean, I'd like to think that some of the adults of the children that are coming down to do this take a bit more care and interest in what they're doing.
Gary Blair, NBN News.
It always had the impression of a massive mismatch, both teams at polar ends of the league ladder, the Kings showing why they're championship favourites. The Pirates tried to bridge the gap with three-pointers. Unfortunately, not many found their mark. Luke Martin demonstrating the Kings' confidence was sky high. Pirates centre Geordie Cullen's involvement in the final quarter proved an inspiration. All of a sudden, the home team's shots began to stick. The Kings started to make mistakes while the Pirates gained some momentum. Enter the Kings star US import Ebi Ari. The Pirates, to their credit, never stopped trying, just outclassed by a team going for 2 championships in a row. Stockton swimmer Justin Norris has tasted success at the Qantas Skins in Sydney, winning the 200-metre mystery medley overnight. In soccer, Newcastle United captain Robbie Middleby has been suspended by the NSL for 2 matches following this tackle in the team's match against Sydney Olympic last Friday. Meanwhile, United's Jobe Wheelhouse is likely to miss the first match of the Young Socceroos Youth World Cup Championships after twisting an ankle at the team's first training session in the United Arab Emirates. Cullen Robinson, NBN News.
He holds one of the top jobs in State Cabinet, but Transport Minister Michael Costa is also an example of someone who is successfully managing a mental illness. He was diagnosed with depression while his sister has schizophrenia.
If you come from a family that's had a history of people suffering, you worry about your own offspring, and really you do need to put the effort into the research effort, and it's important that that effort be supported by the community, and the first step is to talk about it.
Mr Costa says he overcame his battle by seeking professional help. Today, he lent his support to the Hunter DNA Bank. Its first sample was donated this morning by Craig Hamilton, who has been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. His data will be used for genetic research to develop better ways of treating schizophrenia and other mental illness.
By establishing a DNA bank, we're going to be able to look at particular genes and, perhaps more importantly, identify new genes that are associated with this disorder.
For the research to be effective, DNA is needed from everyone, even those who are healthy. The confidential information can then be accessed by researchers from around the world. But until a long-term solution is found, Mr Costa is encouraging people with mental health concerns to seek professional advice.
Being open about mental illness is very difficult, but it needs to occur to make the breakthroughs in terms of community understanding and community support.
Perth was unlucky not to score in the first 20 minutes, with 3 solid attempts failing to bear fruit. Tom Ponderlack giving Newcastle fans a scare. This tackle looked more like league than soccer before Newcastle's Damien Brown came so close. Mitchell Johnson had a double go at scoring but couldn't get past Perth goalie Vince Matassa. Ryan Griffiths had a go but launched the ball into orbit. With both sides scoreless in the second half, the lights went out. Frustrated officials considered calling the game off, but thankfully for Newcastle they didn't. With the lights back on, a cross from Scott Thomas found the head of Asala Massey.
Although without the toughest game for us to play on the back of 5 games, it was probably the best one to play as well. Because the boys are naturally, everybody picks up, I've said it before, everybody picks up 10, 20, 30% to play against Perth.
Despite the win, Newcastle officials were left a little red-faced.
To have a fixture not completed in the city of Newcastle is a huge embarrassment, and certainly that's something that I'm very, very aware of, and certainly don't want it to occur in the city. But we've had 2 close calls now.
Newcastle and Central Coast officers joined forces for today's search of the nature reserve as investigations continued into the discovery of Janelle Haviland's body at a North Gosford home last Friday. A firearm was discovered in the house. The 40-year-old victim had suffered extensive injuries.
The post-mortem has been completed. I'm not at liberty to give the result of the cause of death. However, I can inform you that Mrs Haviland unfortunately received severe head injuries.
Blackbutt Reserve became a focus for police within hours of the woman's body being found. However, officers were unable to locate her estranged husband, John.
At this stage, we're pursuing a number of inquiries in relation to his location. As I said, we did have information he may have been in the area on Friday in the reserve, and we need to bring that to finality because it's important we locate him as soon as possible.
After several hours battling their way through lantana-infested bushland, the 80-member search team made a breakthrough locating the body of a middle-aged man.
The area where we were looking was rough terrain. Police had to go into these areas, cut through lantana, and lucky enough earlier today, we managed to break through and find the body.
The body is yet to be positively identified. A report is being prepared for the coroner on both deaths. Gary Blair, NBN News.
Flying back from Melbourne today, Nick Donald and clubmate Stephanie Williams were still sky high after being crowned Australian Youth Swimmers of the Year.
And when they announced that it was Nick Donald, I just thought, nice, cool.
Unwrapping their precious cargo, the pair reflected on what's been a year to remember. Donald battled most of it with a viral infection that's seen him rest in recent months, and today he scotched rumours that he was to quit the sport.
You look at it and you see, I've got this award now. They're saying they put in their faith in me that I'm going to be able to keep competing, keep doing well. So you've got to do it.
Most aspiring swimmers would be happy just to sit in the same room as Australia's elite, but to literally rub shoulders on awards night is something dreams are made of. And Stephanie Williams couldn't believe it when she won.
Very nervous. I was stunned. I didn't know what to say to anyone. It was good.
Much like her season, which included a swag of gold medals and records at the national age titles, before becoming the youngest swimmer to ever win a national short course title, taking out the 200-metre backstroke. Both are now well and truly marked for bigger things ahead.
It's typical of the plight in many areas in New South Wales. There are 72 organisations in the Hunter providing special care for the region's disabled, but still many are forced to go without. A shortage of respite care for young people and those being cared for by ageing parents are among the challenges facing the industry.
We have a high population of people with disability, and we need to work with the government in trying to secure funding to make sure that we're able to provide the services required.
And that's exactly what's being done. Lifestyle Solutions is one of the region's newest disability organisations to be successful in gaining financial assistance. Community groups are also proving important.
What we've found is, in fact, if presented properly, services to people with disabilities and integrating people with disabilities into the Hunter community is something that can be taken up by all sectors of the community.
Today, support services from across the Hunter Valley celebrated International Disability Day. Local sporting heroes also lent their support.
Today is just the classic example of something that isn't driven by money, but is driven by the capacity and the willingness of the sector to work together and come up with great outcomes.
Colleen West, NBN News.
Sacked on Saturday, still today, Bruce Palmer's contract termination wasn't settled.
Unfortunately, due to legal considerations, we are unable to discuss in any way the nature or circumstances of the split.
What they could confirm was that former Melbourne Tiger and Newcastle star David Simmons would head up the Pirates, but even that was confusing.
Dave is the interim coach. I'm pretty sure that he'll see us through the season.
As Butch said earlier, I'm here for the rest of the season.
What is certain, Simmons will be in charge against the Breakers on Friday night. About the same time, Bruce Palmer should be back with his family in Brisbane. Joined today by sacked assistant Rick Castle and player Cameron Rigby, all three now stand on Newcastle basketball's outer.
I still can't tell you the reasons why. I think that would have to come from management.
Were you given a reason? Or?
I have not been given a clear reason.
While thanking those involved during his short tenure, a hint may have come late in his goodbye.
David Simmons and Tim Mallon need to be given the opportunity to work with his team without interruptions and without any interferences.
I think have been more than fair.
Yeah, I was given a fair go, I suppose. If 11 games is a fair go, I was given a fair go.
The Pirates now prepare for New Zealand on Friday night. Jim Callanan, NBN News.
The University of Newcastle has welcomed the reforms, which will provide more funding and more places.
But we would really be looking forward to somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 new places over the next 6 years.
But as part of the deal, universities can also increase their fees by up to 25%.
Any increase in HECS puts a significant burden on students and or their families, and that can't be denied.
I think it's ridiculous that they're speaking of increasing HECS. At this point, it's still really expensive to study. Students, on top of having to pay for their degree with HECS, they've also got to pay textbook costs and things like that.
The Students' Association believes raising the HECS repayment threshold to $35,000 won't make a huge difference, but says it's angry that more than a third of places will now go to full-paying students.
A degree's for the rich, not for the poor. Basically, if you're white, middle class and have parents who can afford your degree, you can afford to go to uni.
But Professor Brian English says fee-paying students will still have to get within 5 UAI points of the required minimum entry. He says there's also been welcome news for university staff. The workplace reform package has now been scrapped. Lyndall Derrick, NBN News. The technology has been around in Hollywood for years, and face recognition like this is becoming increasingly important in reality since September 11. This software contains thousands of faces. All can be immediately identified if they appear before a camera. But there's currently no system capable of achieving 100% recognition under different conditions, such as in different light, from a different angle, or if someone has a different expression. But Dr. Abbas Kuzani has received funding to research how it can be done.
Based on my past experience, I'm quite certain that we have the expertise to achieve this within a few years.
The advanced technology could provide a major boost to security and surveillance procedures. Lyndall Derrick, NBN News.
Taking a closer look through the NSL's Task Force report again today, there were no real surprises for Newcastle in the recommendations for a new look competition. Comfortable with the financial aspects, including a $1 million upfront fee for a 5-year licence, it's the battle to beat off other tenders for one of the 2 regional spots available that is the key element for United.
A clean sheet, it's 10 franchises and the best 10 submissions in terms of their business proposals will be accepted. So there's no guarantees.
In saying that, the General Manager believes Newcastle will be hard to beat and will present a strong submission when tenders are called for in late January as 13 clubs get culled to 10.
Change is difficult and there was a lot of emotion in the room yesterday from a number of the existing foundation clubs and that is to be expected.
The future for the Northern New South Wales Federation also looks a little clearer tonight after officials met with the Australian Soccer Association and Sports Commission officials in Sydney. Returning with renewed confidence over their future, the Federation will know its fate before Christmas. Jim Callanan, NBN News.
Just imagine waking up to the soothing sound of the ocean and these breathtaking views. That's the dream of Newcastle restaurateur Neil Slater.
You just can't get a room with a bad view. Just have a look at the view from this window here, and that's true of every window in the place.
A lighthouse was established on Nobby's Headland in 1858 and since that time has guided thousands of ships through the dark of night. The public may soon be able to cash in on the famous landmark.
We were looking for a solution that worked so that we could give the site back to Newcastle.
The group is hoping to develop the Headland's 3 cottages into overnight accommodation, as well as establishing a cafe and an interpretive centre. The cafe will seat up to 80 people and will double as a function area. Those looking for a romantic escape will have 9 ocean view rooms to choose from, each refurbished and complete with a spa. Nobby's Lighthouse Consortium will finalise its development application with the help of community groups.
Well, the main thing is to make sure that any of the groups who have an interest in it have a say in that.
If given the go-ahead by Council, Nobby's Lighthouse, Cafe and B&B should be open this time next year. It was a kind of reception usually reserved for movie stars and sporting heroes. HMAS Newcastle's crew of 230 took a rare opportunity to execute their freedom into the city, marching down Hunter Street this morning. It was a perfect homecoming for the ship's 8 Novocastrians who farewelled their city 5 months ago, bound for the North Arabian Gulf.
Newcastle put on a good turnout for the day and I'm happy to be back.
It's great to see the family because they're all from up here.
While some took a rare opportunity for a family happy snap, others were dreaming of the festive season and being reunited with loved ones.
And the first thing I'm going to be doing is going shopping with my mum.
For Lieutenant Commander Stephen Hughes, there were plenty of reasons to celebrate, the ship's birthday coinciding with his. A civic reception provided a welcome break from the stifling heat and a few surprises. This appropriately named street sign presented to HMAS Newcastle crew. The ship leaves for Sydney tomorrow. Colleen West, NBN News.
That's unbelievable. Kids play out here all the time, every day. I'm just glad they weren't under it.
A spectacular fire in July gutted the Lambton Road office of the Newcastle MBA. If the devastating blaze wasn't shock enough, the possible discovery of asbestos in the debris has come as another surprise.
And I've worked in the building for 20 years. I can't really think where, other than possibly the external sunscreens on the front of the building, which were flat sheet asbestos, if indeed that's any asbestos at all.
Work cover has halted demolition of the building until a specialist investigation is completed. The building union fears the contamination problem could be serious.
All we're asking is that the procedures be done properly, that no further possible contamination of the site, no possible exposure by any workers on the site until it's been determined whether or not we have a problem.
The MBA has accused the union of scaremongering ahead of an environmental hygienist report expected next week on the situation.
He'll identify if there is, what should be done, what sort of asbestos and what areas it may be contained in. And then we can deal with facts.
Gary Blair, NBN News. This rock platform looks like the idyllic place for ocean fishing. It's now much safer after the Australian National Sports Fishing Association today installed 2 angel rings, a safety improvement local ANSA official Yanko Sarifi wanted here months ago.
Since I first touted this project, going back in May, 2 people have lost their lives on these rocks.
The availability of the flotation device has been credited with saving the lives of 17 fishermen in just 5 years along the state's coastline.
Guy gets washed in, it's a matter of grabbing the ring off the pole, throw it to him, he puts it around his body and tell him swim out and wait for rescue.
4 more angel rings will be installed along the Lake Macquarie coast.
Located between 2 inner-city night spots, the Argyle Street overpass is a quick and easy thoroughfare, but too easy it seems for some, who police claim are climbing and sliding on the handrails after too much Christmas cheer.
We're a little bit concerned that risk-taking by young males may result in more injuries, and we're just asking if people could use common sense, especially if they've been consuming intoxicating liquor and their judgment is impaired as a result.
And that's what happened to a 25-year-old Valentine man recently who lost his footing on a handrail, falling 9 metres, suffering serious head injuries.
He's still unconscious in the intensive care unit of the John Hunter Hospital on life support.
And Lake Macquarie Police have appealed for public help to locate 25-year-old Charles Chenry, missing from his Windale home since Friday.
His family have indicated this is completely out of character and they do have concerns for his welfare. He does have a medical condition which requires medication, and that's part of the reason for the family and police concerns.
Adam McIlrick, NBN News.
The consortium proposing a coastal wetland park are looking at international recognition because this really is international habitat.
SMS proved one of the most popular ways for students to find out their HSC results, and by lunchtime, many were eager to know how their classmates fared.
But since coming to school and sharing the news with everybody, it's been a really, really happy time because everyone's celebrating and sharing success.
There were plenty of smiles for Sarah and Monique. They both achieved more than 90 in at least 10 units.
I didn't think I put in enough work to get over 90 in most of my subjects. I thought I'd be in the mid-80s. But yeah, so I'm really, really happy.
Several students in the Hunter topped the state in their course. They were Andrea Ho, Kate Reggers, Nicola Reich, Casey Lee Matthews, Peter Yoon, Owen Ma and Simon Bone. Merewether High School held an informal barbecue in what would be the final time the class of 2003 would come together.
This barbecue is just a wonderful occasion. The Year 12s and the teachers get together to celebrate. It's the end of a long haul. They've done well. We're happy.
But many say they'll really relax once they receive their UAI tomorrow, which provides a state ranking.
My aspirations are to be an aeronautical engineer at Sydney University, so hopefully I'll get into that, depending on my UAI tomorrow.
Lyndall Derrig, NBN News.
The October 1 accident between a car and truck left 4 members of the Wickneard family from Armidale dead. Only 10-year-old Matthew survived the carnage. It's become the catalyst for Scone Council to step up demands for the accident black spot to be fixed.
The most recent very tragic accident, unfortunately, was not typical of the accidents that have occurred over time on this corner. They've usually been caused by trucks heading in a southerly direction, losing their way down the hill and going onto the wrong side of the road.
The Scone Mayor this afternoon showed local MP and Federal Transport Minister John Anderson why the section of National Highway needs to be fixed. However, any start to work is being delayed by the state government.
When I planned this visit down here today, I did so on the basis that I thought that by then I would have the report. I'm not being critical of anybody. For whatever reason, it's taken longer.
Scone Council's favoured option is to straighten the highway by using farmland to the east of the existing bend. John Anderson is promising a prompt answer on what the Commonwealth is prepared to fund.
Certainly in terms of whatever is recommended, I do give a commitment that I won't tarry. We'll make a decision and get on with what's needed.
Gary Blair, NBN News.
Fire units from 5 stations were called to the wrecking yard in Strait Road last night. When they arrived just before midnight, they found fires burning in 2 separate sections of the yard. As plastic, rubber, paint and petrol burnt, firefighters were forced to use breathing apparatus to avoid the fumes. More than 100 car bodies were destroyed in the fire that burnt for several hours. Last night's blaze is the second suspicious outbreak at the yard this year. In July, firefighters had trouble gaining entry because of several fierce guard dogs. Last night, the dogs were rescued by 2 passers-by.
For the Rourke family, opening presents at 5:30 this morning was a somewhat spiritual experience. Santa certainly stopped here, delivering almost everything on the wish list. Well, maybe not everything. With no stocking left unturned, it was time to road test their latest acquisitions in what was the beginning of a very long day. Outside, those who could wasted no time breaking in what were rewards for 12 months of good behaviour, some more disciplined than others working off that lunch in advance. But fine food and gift giving was put on hold for those attending morning church services, many there to honour the birth of one very special child. They gathered too at Newcastle's Christchurch Cathedral, but possibly the largest Christmas get-together was on the foreshore, a Samaritan's lunch 12 months in the planning, catering for the disadvantaged, requiring an army of volunteers.
The least we can do, I think.
And I think Christmas is a good time to give everything you can.
Oh, it's getting into the Christmas spirit of giving and sharing with other people.
Adam McIlrick, NBN News. To us, it's just another loving dad dressed up as Santa, but for relatives of Jeff Davies, it's a sight they've been waiting to see for 2 years.
I missed last year because I had a heart attack and I was in hospital for 5 weeks over Christmas, so I thought this year I'm going to do it.
Not even a recent arm and leg amputation could stop the father of two from fulfilling his festive obligations. Having spent the past 5 months in hospital, he nearly wasn't coming home. But that wasn't an option. And healthy or not, that Christmas determination should see him keep the dream alive for some years to come. Adam McIlrick, NBN News.
The Hunter experienced some of its heaviest traffic of the year over the weekend as thousands of holiday makers made their pilgrimage north on the Pacific Highway. While temporary bottlenecks between Beresfield and Karua slowed the journey, in some cases it only helped to fuel frustration. In one case, a young motorist was stopped by police at Bulahdelah for exceeding her speed limit by over 60 kilometres an hour.
She was detected doing 145 in the 110 zone, but her actual speed limit is only 80. That is just too dangerous.
Police have now booked over 1,300 motorists in the Hunter for speeding, which is up a third on this time last year. Drink drivers have also failed to get the message about the big number of officers on the road during the summer holidays. 12,000 motorists have been breath tested in the Hunter, with 87 caught over the limit, and some of the results concern police.
Lower Hunter alone, there's been 23 drink driving offences detected there, and 21% of them have been high range, which is above 0.150, and quite a few of them have been above 0.20.
Gary Blair, NBN News.
Reaching the same stage last year, Tamworth was hoping to go one better this time around, and Adam Jones got them off to a solid start. While a little chancy at times, he left little doubt when he really went after it. Tim Cancel fell just too short of a century in yesterday's win, and he joined Jones today for a healthy second wicket partnership. Jones reaching 50 as Tamworth set the Central Coast side 212 to win. 4 down for 67, captain Todd Campbell found himself digging Hamilton Wickham out of trouble at Raymond Terrace. Together with Steve Cowan, the pair moved the former cup holders along to 118 before the skipper watched another one fall. Michael Jordan could have done anything with this, but instead he picked out Steve Jones, who obliged. How's this for a first ball? New bat, Kirk Mullard, pounding Paul Mason back over his head and everyone else's. It was an eventful first over from Paul Murphy, who had Campbell dropped, before removing Mullard next ball. The one after that was even better, as Matt Webber fell victim. Campbell bringing up his half-century in style, before belting his way to 61 as Hamwick's ended with 191.